What are you doing, Daddy?
Trying to take over the world, Tyler. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, your number one podcast for and about black dads. I'm your host, creator Terrell Lindsay, and I created this show with the hope that I can encourage, empower, educate, and in the process, entertain fathers in a way that inspires us to be a better version of ourselves. This is episode 7 of the Awesome Black Dad Show, and today we get to chop it up with Koai Matthews, a Chicago native that found career success in Memphis, Tennessee. In this episode, you will hear about Koai's journey from a felonious mistake to a successful career as a principal of one of Memphis's highest performing charter schools. We get into everything like finding true love, wearing your mistakes as a badge of honor, the blessings of fatherhood, and making the best of what many may perceive to be a bad hand. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 7. And remember, everyone deserves a second chance. Well, welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show. Good to have you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So as usual, I don't know if you listen, but we kind of get right into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it.
Let's do it, man.
All right. Who is Koai?
Man, complicated individual. I think my life has really gone in a lot of different ways, and so I think all of those different experiences has shaped who I am. I think I've become, much more of a nurturer. Selfish at times. I think that's part of just human nature. You more concerned. You're really concerned about yourself, but you talk about kids, right? And so you can't be selfish anymore. So you learn the other ways that you need to be.
Right.
So just developing and growing into a man, and just adding little, tools to my tool belt as I go, man. So I think I've grown quite a bit since the last time we really had a conversation back in high school. So,
Right. Yeah, no, it's been a little while. I mean, we've conversated since then, but I'm sure I think we all have had to grow tremendously. From those adolescent times for sure. So you mentioned that you added some more things to your tool belt.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into that, because I really want to know what some of those things are.
Yes, sir.
How would you say that your childhood household experience kind of influenced who you are today?
Oh, it was tremendous, man. You growing up single parent home, no father. What I'm saying? My mom's was like, hey, I'm putting you in a good school. I'm gonna put you in Proudest St. Mel.
Right.
And that saved my life. I can honestly say that. That definitely saved my life, because I went to Hurst Elementary School in 6th and 7th grade, and it was rough. So I think growing up in a single parent home really has helped me to see, and kind of things that my mom has done to prepare me for manhood. I mean, she did the best she could do. So,
right.
But I think not having a father, growing up on the west side and the south side of Chicago, because we moved around all the time.
Yeah.
I think all those different experiences have helped me to kind of develop into who I am right now. It's definitely shaped my childhood. Definitely shaped where I am now, and things that I'm hungry for and aspire for, and really trying to move toward. So yeah, lots of different experiences.
Right.
these mean Chicago streets.
Absolutely, for sure. You mentioned that your mom did the best that she could in terms of teaching you how to be the best man that you could be.
Yep.
A lot of times we talk about women can't raise men, but a lot of us grew up in single-parent households. What would you say, if you can think back to a time when you realized when your mom was teaching you something about being a man? Or, being a man.
Oh, we've had this conversation a couple different times, and it's all been post childhood, right? So it's like, I call my mom on my way to work, like, Mom, I can't believe it. I'm assistant principal now. Like, let me tell you about all this stuff I'm doing. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what I used to tell you, because you had this thing, you had this. And so, like, she would, spend a lot of time going back and like, hey, that's why I did this, or that's why I was so tough on you about this, and that's why I never hugged you. That's why I never, I purposely didn't be overly emotional with you because I had to raise a man, and I had to do it the best way I knew how to do it, and I didn't want you to be a soft, this and that and the other. So, I held on to those feelings. So these are conversations I have with my mom. She's telling me like, so that's what you. So and I think back like, so the absence of like the hugs and the I love yous and those kind of things that I didn't have growing up. How does that manifest itself now? And I see when I'm with my girls, like all I do is hug and I love them and I tell them and I pinch their cheek and I tickle. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it manifests in different ways.
Yeah. So it's interesting. That's what I was getting ready to get into. I was going to say, with you having girls, those, it's a total flip, right? And it's challenging to have the conversation about, the emotions as it relates to how men are socialized and how women are socialized and how we grow up and we get in these relationships.
Yep.
And it's harder for us to manage certain relationships because we don't know how to manage our emotions the way that we're socialized. And it's interesting that you bring it up in a way that your mom decided to toughen you or harden you because she knew that you needed that edge to be able to survive to some degree, right?
Exactly.
And so we can get into a whole conversation about, how that develops us, how it's hurt us in some regards. Because my mom is similar in the sense that she's not the type that'll hug and kiss. I mean, she will. And she doesn't really say, I love you, but there is nobody on earth could tell me that my mom didn't love me because she showed her love in her actions, right? But a caveat to that is that when I get older as a grown man, it's like being able to translate that to my wife or my kids, and there's a difference in terms of those emotions. So I don't want to get too far off on the tangent, but we'll absolutely come back to that at some point for sure.
No doubt.
And so, did you ever get an opportunity to meet your father? Did you?
Yeah. So we have a pretty good relationship now. I was very angry growing up, and so I think. So he wasn't really a part of my life. I knew him growing up, saw pictures, talked to him, would visit every few years or so. But then in high school, the conversation just started to pick up more. And I was at that age, like, so I was a sophomore in high school, and I'm thinking, and you remember this, right? So after my freshman year, I'm like, this ain't working. I can't be here with my mom. I need something else. I'm longing for that father figure, you know what I'm saying? And, our coach did his best he could, you know what I'm saying? People at school did the best that they could, but I needed more. So I needed to see this for myself. I needed to know what was life like with him. And so I made the decision, talked to my mom and said, hey, I want to go live with my father. I'm going to talk to him. And I made the decision myself. And she said, okay. She cautioned me not to. Because
not to cut you off, but and I hate when people say not to cut you off, and then they cut you off. But I know I want to get into I really want to ask the question as to why or what she did to caution you. Do you remember what she said to you in terms of being cautious?
Yeah. So she said, in a very gross generalization, she said, if he is anything like he used to be, you're not going to be happy. He is selfish. He is out for himself. He is not the ideal man that I would want you to pattern your life after. And I heard her, but at the same time, like, you're a woman. You're angry at him, right? And you know what I'm saying? You've always had issues with him, so I can't just rely on what you said. I've got to see for myself. Yep. So
I mean, you needed at that time what you needed, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we can have mentors all throughout our lives. We can have men that come into our lives and they're there for a reason and a season, right? And they help us tremendously. But sometimes for some reason it just doesn't seem to be enough, right? And I'm just not. It's funny because when you talk about daddy issues, you immediately think about girls and dads, right?
Yep.
And so, literally, as of late, like as of the time that I've been doing this podcast and been talking to people, and getting people's backgrounds and stories and hearing all these things and having more open-ended conversations, I'm realizing that it's not just girls.
Absolutely.
We as men have daddy issues, and we don't explicitly know how to handle those things. We handle them with aggressions, and it's like we handle those things with aggressions on both ends. Like when we meet our father, they handle it the same way as if they didn't learn from it either.
Right.
And I'm speaking from my own experiences, not from yours. I'm just saying that I know just a bit of that in terms of trying to have that, create a balance and create a relationship with that missing piece. It's like, you begin to ask yourself, why do I have this? Why do I feel this way about? Why is it him?
Right.
And all these other things, you know what I'm saying? So it just, I absolutely understand what you're saying and how that feels. And I'm definitely going to have a deeper conversation about these daddy issues, as we begin to, because they need to be resolved at some point. And so when you got to living with your dad, what kind of came out of that?
Man, it was, the classic, was it the cliche, the grass is always greener on the other side. And so you get to the other side and you look back like, man, that grass green over there. Let me get back over there. So I got down, moved to Mississippi, moved to a very high-end neighborhood. Houses were really, really nice. And so what you would picture as the American dream, from the outside, looked really good. It looked really good. On the inside, was not. I mean, it just had issues with, my brother and my sister, on my father's side.
On your father's side, okay.
Yeah, and so he remarried. So I had my stepmom, who that was a little bit of a situation right away. But I think, just going through that, I've learned that. I needed to just go back home, and so I spent that semester in Mississippi.
When you say semester, this was college then? No, this is
high school.
Okay.
This is high school. So after freshman year of high school, after that summer, moved to Mississippi. Okay, to live with him. Stayed for that whole semester. Went to school. Went out for the basketball team. Made the team. I was ready to go. Everything was set up for me to do well, but I wasn't happy inside for a number of reasons. Like everything that my mom said about my father turned out to be true. During that time, he's a different man now, and we've got a great relationship now. But at the time, she was absolutely correct. Okay, and so moving down there, man, just wasn't happy. So I ended up telling my mom, like, I'm coming home for Christmas. In the back of my mind, I had a whole plan. I'm staying at home as soon as I get back. So I made sure I grabbed all my stuff when I went to visit. Kissed my sister and my brother and said, shot them the deuces. Came back home, got myself back into St. Mel, and the rest is history.
So it's interesting because I think at that time when we're teenagers and we're going through puberty or whatever it is we got going on, is we're growing from that boy to a man, and we yearn for that male attention, right? And so we can, for me, it was like. The problem for me is that I felt like with my mother, I didn't have that middle ground. I didn't have that man in the middle to say, he's going through this, let him ride this tide out, chill out, right? Yep. It was always, she was full on because of her experiences with men and things that she wanted to raise as a kid. Now looking back, I understand some of those things and so forth and so on. But it's interesting that when you went with your dad, you found that bit of there was some discourse there when you needed it the most, but you had you didn't accept it as is. You was like, all right, this is not working out. I know that I need to go back to the crib. I tried it. I went looking for it. It didn't work out. Maybe another time. Right. So that's really, really interesting. So you mentioned that your mom. So your dad was married to your mom at a point in time, right?
No, they were never married. So they met. So they got together in high school. Okay. And kept their relationship going. My mom went to college. He didn't. And so she ended up getting pregnant in college with me, obviously. And then she ended up moving to Chicago. She left me with my grandmother down there, and then came back and got me when I was about 8 months or so. Okay. And she brought me back up to Chicago. So I've been in Chicago ever since.
So basically, what I want to ask is that you have two girls, right? What ages? What's their age?
7 and 4.
Okay, and you were married before you had kids, right? And so the question where I want to go with it is that I want to know how important was it for you to get married before having kids, seeing as though you didn't really through your experiences, you realized that, you know, your household was split. Your dad was one place and you were with your mom, and not really having an understanding in your household of what marriage really is. Yeah. But you knew how kids came to exist and so forth and so on. So why and where did you put marriage before kids?
So my mom got married twice. And both relationships didn't work out, right? So I saw what it looks like to be married, what you're supposed to do through stepfathers, and they weren't great stepfathers. They were okay. But I had ongoing conversations about, you know, what is manhood with my mom and with, you know, my stepfathers at the time. And they told me about how you're supposed to do things. And so you hear about how you're supposed to do things. And so that's always something that's been in my mind. And I knew that I wasn't a product of how things are supposed to be. I didn't grow up in a situation where my mother and father were married. And so I was like, okay, I'm here and my mother's not married, but I'm here. And, you know, this isn't exactly everything that you're telling me that I'm supposed to do, you didn't do. And so now I've got to work through that as I'm growing up. But always in the back of my mind, it was, hey, you're supposed to get married, and then you have kids, and then you start your life, and then you know the thing that you're supposed to do.
The cliche thing,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And so once I met my wife, I was like, yeah, she's the one. And so just a natural progression. Like once I made up in my mind that I was going to do the right thing, I proposed, got married, and then literally right when we got back, she got pregnant. So
that was pretty much a straight line. Like you figured out in your head.
Man,
like,
it was a straight line.
Let's go to home run in, right?
Yep.
And then after that, I'm going to marry you. And then after that, we're going to drop this baby.
Drop him off.
That's all going to happen on this Saturday night. Right? You good with that? Saturday night, this is all going down.
Here, son, right here.
So you mentioned that, you know, when you met her, you knew. What was that? Like, what did you know?
Dude, it's crazy. I was right out of college, came back to Chicago and was throwing parties. I had a promotional company. Okay. And so I'm in the nightlife. I'm in the, you know, the who's who. Ended up throwing a party, walked in with my partner at the time. And so we walked in and looked across the room. I literally saw my wife sitting at the bar with another young lady. Come to find out that was her cousin. Okay. And when I saw her, I was just like, I told my business partner, I was like, hey man, you see her right there? And so I pointed at her, and I made sure she saw me pointing at her because I wanted her to know. You know what I'm saying? I was like, watch this. I'm gonna marry her. She bad. She bad. So I don't know. It was just something about it. I just knew. Like, I don't know what.
And as you're talking about this, I'm Googling this because this definitely sounds like the script from some movie. It ain't Brown Sugar. It ain't Brown Sugar, but it's some movie that you just stole that story from.
Let me tell you, like, wait till I tell you the rest of it though. So I see her from across the room, and like, you know, it sounds like a movie. I see her from across the room. I look at her, wink at her, you know, just trying to get her attention, and I motioned to her like, "Hey, come talk to me." And she was like, "Nah." I'm like, "No, what you mean? No, you ain't gonna come. What you mean you ain't gonna talk? You know how many? I got a lot of women up in here. You ain't gonna come talk to me? Okay, all right." So I left it alone. I whispered to my business partner like, "Yo, I'm gonna get her by the end of the night, whatever." So we go around, boom, 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 come back. And then I motioned to her again. We call eyes again. I'm like, hey, I motioned to her again, like tell her to come talk to me. She said no again. I'm like, wow, like she's telling me no. Like, and I wasn't really used to that.
Hey, wait, I don't mean to cut the story off again because it's getting interesting. But
I'm telling you, it sounds like.
But you know the thing that's sticking out to me, the way you're explaining it is that you're motioning to her to come to you. Yes. Like you never thought to walk over to her and say.
No. Not one time in my mind did I think after she rejected my proposition of her coming over to me, I realized I was like, okay, so this ain't gonna work.
That's not gonna work.
Now I got to figure out something. I was like, well, and so I mouthed to her. I was like, hey, meet me halfway. Meet me halfway. And that's funny though. So we literally met halfway.
Okay.
We agreed on that. But that's been a symbol of our relationship since then. There's always meeting halfway. It's always compromise. It's always working together. It's always being on the same page. And because of that, like, it's, when I say it sounds like a movie, it really, really
you
does
just
sound
ended it like a movie. Like,
You know what I'm saying?
Like, now, so our relationship is now the foundation of how we met. So when our girls get older, we
know
can
what
talk
I'm
to them
saying?
about meeting in the middle.
That's
because
right.
I met your dad in the middle.
in the middle. You know what I'm saying?
And scene.
Yes, sir.
No, that's I mean, it's unique from a perspective of that. It never really dawned on you as a man, like you would think. Even in the things that you see, you see the man kind of approaching the woman. But I guess, for whatever reason, it was just like, you were still in that mode. Like, all these girls around him, at some point, you going to come to me.
You're going to come to me.
Right.
I mean, it's just what's going to happen. You're going to come to me. And she did.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I had to figure out something else.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a teaching lesson in terms of, in terms of the marriage. But with respect to that, like, what would you say is more important? Or what is it more important to be a better husband or a better father?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I think.
Yeah, we getting there.
All right. I'm going to say, man, I don't know if I can separate the two. I think they go hand in hand. If you are a great husband, then part of being a great husband is being a great father. Now, there obviously are relationships that don't work, and you can still be a great father despite the relationship.
Right.
So I think if you prioritize, I would say being a great husband it might be what you need to focus on first.
Okay.
And then from that, you'll be able to you should focus on being, like, if you're going to be a great husband, if you do the things you're supposed to do, then what happens is you're going to be a great father. But if that relationship doesn't work, then you need to be a great father. So that moves up to priority on your list.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you got to the point to what I was trying to get to is like what makes you feel like, prioritization, right? And that's one of the challenges I think in having and keeping good relationships is figuring out what your priorities are. Right. And it's hard to kind of delineate between the two because they're very, very important. But when you're coming from a perspective of priorities, you can only have one number one, one number two, and so forth and so on. So it's like, how do you begin to balance those things in terms of priorities? And I think that as men, that's the way we think logically. Like, we have to put things one in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. That's the way that we move. If, the check comes in on Friday, these bills need to be paid so the lights don't go out. Right. And the next thing after that, and so forth and so on. Right. And it gets into accountability and responsibility and all those other things. And so I asked that question because it's like we don't have the conversations to really understand the difference between the two. Some people can be really great fathers and not be the best husband to their wives. Right. And we don't understand that there should be some level of separation between the two. You have to, at some point, I think you have to choose. At some point, like, you might not need to know it. It's best to probably know it before, but as you're going through it, and it might ebb and flow. Your priorities can ebb and flow. Exactly. You know what I mean? So at some point, you might be at a place where you have to, your child requires so much more than your quote unquote relationship, but understand that your relationship might take a hit. Right. And so it's just that back and forth and understanding the difference and what comes to that. Because people always have these conversations about children in relationships, and they talk about it in a way that it enhances relationships. Yep. And in most cases, children drive a bit of a wedge, right? And if you don't have those two things in place, relationships tend to fall off the cliff. And
to tie it back to all the stuff that we hear all the time: get married first, then have kids. That's why the old heads used to school us on, like, you get married first. So you got to establish your relationship first. Once you do that and you're solid with your partner, then like, okay, now we can bring kids in the mix because we've got this foundation set. Now we can both send our energy to the kids because they need it too.
Right, yeah.
But you can only do that once you know your foundation is solid.
Right. And so now that we've established that your foundation is pretty solid in terms of you and your wife meeting in the middle.
Yes, sir. Meet in the middle.
and that works out for your relationship. Moving into the children, you have 2 girls. What would you say, if any, your policy is as it relates to your daughters and you being a father?
They will know that what daddy says he's going to do. And that goes a lot of different directions. I am the protector of my family. So any drama, any issues you have at school, if your teacher says something you didn't like or whatever it is, I'm here to protect you. I'm always going to ride for you if you're in the right. I'm going to teach them, but what they're going to know about me is like what daddy says he's going to do. I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to protect you, if I say I'm going to love you, if I say I'm going to do this, it's going to get done. Yep. And
do you see that they've accepted that from you at this point?
Oh, they totally hold me accountable. So yeah. I'm on the books right now for buying a iPod for my little girl who got all A's and B's on her report card. And I told her that's just talking too fast. Probably should have thought about it, thought the whole thing through.
Right.
But absolutely, they hold me accountable. So she got all A's and B's, so I owe her an iPod. So when we get back, I got to take her to Best Buy.
Right.
But they will hold me accountable.
Yeah, I don't think they sell iPods anymore. So you might be out a little bit more money.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, but we'll figure it out.
She's just trying to get you in a store, and you're gonna walk out with a bag. You got girls. You can't. Can you say no? Can you say no to your girls? Let me back up. Are you tough? Are you tough on your girls, or are you soft as cotton candy?
Man,
let's be real.
They know. So like certain things I can say. Like they've learned me. They know when like I'm just a little frustrated, but he gonna give in, so I can just keep doing whatever I want. Right. But they know once I get to the next level, they know like, okay, time to stop playing. Right. Daddy ain't playing no more. So they've learned that about me. I'm soft. Yeah, but
okay.
But they know
that's what I was waiting for you to get to.
They know where the edge is though.
There is no edge.
All the way up to the edge.
There is no edge, man. It's a cloud. Clouds are soft. You fall right through. Daddy doesn't have no edge. We can keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing. Mm-hmm. I feel sorry, man. I don't know.
It's hard.
I'm sure. I have no idea what I'd be doing with a girl. I'm sure I'd be the same soft cottonelle tissue in that regard, because I had to grow 2 sisters, and you know that I understand what that looks like a little bit. So, you know, talking about your policy and being a man of your word. What are the things that you would want to instill in your children? Right.
I need them to be like their mother, in every way. She's fierce. She's ambitious. She's super intelligent. She's articulate. She's fashionable. She's reflective. She's just all around, just a dope woman. And I need my girls to understand, like, if you love your father, be like your mother so you can get somebody like me, because she's just awesome, and I need my girls to be just like her.
Right. Well, would you want? So you said, and I just want to be clear. You might not admit it, but when you said if you want to have somebody like me, then try to be as close to your mom as possible or better. I'm sure. Would you want the type of man that you are today? Would you want your daughters to marry a man similar to you?
The end version, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll leave it at that.
The final result,
right?
Like if a person ends up being like this, then I would sign off on it.
Okay.
Along the way, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. So when you talk about the end, let's talk about legacy. Can you define what your legacy looks like?
I want to inspire. I want, I'm an educator. I'm a principal of a middle school, and I have the opportunity every day to help shape what our future is going to look like. And so I think that I want my legacy to be change in the mind frame, change in the perception of African Americans in this country. I want my legacy to reflect, the things that I've instilled in my children and my family, but also the students in my school. And so I think as they go out and they go forth and they grow and they mature, I want the things that they hear and they've heard me say about, being the counterexample. The media portrays us in a very, very negative light.
Absolutely.
99% of the time. And so,
0.9% of the time.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, I want you to be the counterexample. Here's how you do it.
Right.
And I want my legacy to be like, hey, Mr. Matthews, he always said I can do this thing. And so now I'm going to do it. Like, if you want to be the best concrete pourer in the world, do it. Like, whatever it is you want to do it to your fullest capability.
Okay.
And use that to help others. And so I want my legacy to be something to the effect of where, like, somebody could, if they think, once I go on, they say, oh, he always pushed me to be better. He always wanted me to do this. He always wanted, just whatever your dream is, follow your dream, and continue to show people that you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't look at a person and just because he has on a gold chain or earrings or he's got on a big watch that he's this thing. Because the most intelligent people in the world are found in the inner cities. And when I say inner city and when I say urban areas, I mean black people.
I'm really trying to find a way to follow. No, but I absolutely agree. I mean, definitely in the way that the media portrays us. And I'm not suggesting that everything that the media pushes to us is wrong, but it's it's incorrect is what I'm not wrong, but incorrect. It's like some of the stuff is true. Some of the stuff that the news media shows is reality, right? But in large part, a lot of it has this negative context that we cannot over time. We are so desensitized to it that we don't even understand. We start to believe that this is the way that things are supposed to be, right? And if we don't step in and begin to control a bit of that narrative in a positive way, right? Not necessarily, and I don't mean in a way that we're just, we're taking images and posting them of positive things and they don't exist. Right. These things do exist in our communities, just like you see the kid or the guy for that matter on a corner or walking down the street with his pants pulled below his butt. There's just another guy that has a briefcase and a suit on and he's walking to his job, right? So there has to be some balance, right? You want to show the reality, and you want to show that there's the truth of it all, that there are some things that are going on that are negative, and we need to get better at it. But you also need to show that there's the better, right? If you never see the better, you think that this is the way that life is. This is the way that it's supposed to be, right? And so it's one of the reasons why I call this the Awesome Black Dad Show, right? It's not that because I am awesome right now. It's what I journey to be, right? And so it's all about the journey and the process in that. I look at where I am today and how I can get better. It's setting goals, achieving those goals, and moving to the next thing. And so when you want to get better, you want to say what it is you want to be, right? When we were playing basketball in high school, we weren't talking about being the guy that was beneath us. We were talking about the Michael Jordans and Scottie Pippens or whoever it was at that time. And those were the people that were on our wall because those are the people that we achieved to be. And so we would say that we're this good because that's where we wanted to be. So if I want to be awesome, then I need to be saying that I want to be awesome, or I will never achieve that thing. Speaking
into existence.
Yeah, you have
action plan for it.
Yeah, and then you have to see that in motion. You can't say it and then 5 years down the line you think that that's what it's supposed to be. You have to walk that walk, especially where we are with children, because they watch us in ways that we have no idea that they are watching.
Man, that's a great point. That's another thing I think about with my daughters too. Is they hear the real conversations that my wife and I have. Like, so when Tiffany and I are talking and we say, hey, in the next year we want to have X amount of dollars in the bank. And so they hear small goals happening and being set by the adults. And so what will happen, and I'm very confident that this is going to happen, you're also going to hear them also setting goals. Daddy, by the end of the year, I want to have a something. Right. Great. Let's work to it. How do you think we can get there? And so set those goals, aspire for them, get on the path for them. You know, and then we'll see where we land. Yeah, absolutely, man. It is definitely the foundation for growth, at least in our communities, or one of the foundations for it, or a piece of it. So, I want to ask, when we're talking about foundation and we're talking about growth and all of these things that go along with that, as men, and we, especially, fathers and so forth, there's a responsibility and accountability that goes along with it. What I want to ask is, what's more important to you, integrity or courage? Integrity. you have to be truthful. You have to be honest. You have to be open and reflective. And I put all of those into the same category with integrity because I think all of them, touch on it in different ways. And so I think about different circumstances where, just thinking about how I'm raising my daughters and some of the mistakes that I've made along the way, just being honest, like, hey, baby, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that because I was really frustrated from a long day at work. Kids was getting on my nerves, this and that and the other. I shouldn't have done that with you. So just being honest and open, I think all of those traits are super important for people really being able to follow you, because if you're open and you're honest, then people are willing to trust, and then you all have an alignment, and then you can go on and set those goals and move forward and do all these other things. And I think integrity is the most important. That's why I said, I want my girls to know, like, what daddy says he's going to do. That's a part of integrity. Like, if I say it, I'm not lying to you. I'm going to do it. It may not happen right when you want it, but it will get done. So
yeah. And so there has to be you're putting integrity in front, and so there has to be. Can you tell us the time when those two might have been you met at a crossroads in terms of your integrity and your courage, and you had to either merge the two to get through when you talk about your experiences and the things that you've went through, and where you had to come to some reality about, my integrity over my courage, or can I be both of these things at the same time?
Mm-hmm. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think integrity and courage do go hand in hand. And there was definitely times where I can think most recently, so a couple years ago, I had a situation where I needed to talk and vent and understand for my own professional development, my own personal growth in terms of my career. And so I was having conversations with all these other people about, what I need to do. These are all educators. So my feeling was I can lean on them for advice, or I can lean on them for, like, hey, what do you think about? And so I think that was good that I was leaning on people, but I wasn't super honest with my wife about the situation. So I'm leaning on other people for advice, and I hadn't clearly communicated that to my wife. And so then I had to come back and say, all right, so now do I have this conversation with my wife saying, hey, I've had these conversations about my next steps, and I didn't have this conversation with you. That's a difficult conversation to have with my wife, at least. So I had to be honest, and it definitely took some courage to be able to broach that conversation, because what we found from that situation is, like, she works in corporate America, and so she has her relationships, and she talks to people, and she is on this quest for more. Mm-hmm. I'm on this quest for more and doing great things, and so we go to our corners, and we're reaching out to these other people, and because I did this and I opened up this conversation with my wife, it allowed us to come back together and be having these conversations with each other, right, and then get aligned on what we need to do and then go back out. Okay. And we weren't doing that. We were just going out. You know what I'm saying? And so what
happened to that meeting in the middle?
Right. See, we got away from it. And
right. So
now that we had that conversation, we can be in the middle again.
Right. You can you can come back to it. So I mean, so talk about one of the most challenging times that you've had.
Oh man, I got a lot of those.
Right. I mean, just one of them.
Yes, sir.
And how you came out of that.
In college, made some really dumb mistakes. Ended up getting a hold of some counterfeit money, and ended up going to jail for it. And
like, so, literally being locked up?
I was locked up for 30 days.
Okay.
And my mom got me out of jail, so she was able to post bond for me.
Okay.
And this was my senior year in college.
Okay.
So I was locked up, got out of jail, finished school, went on to get my master's, got my second master's, but in that process had to go back to Missouri and go to sentencing. September 26, 2006, I'll never forget that day, had to go to the federal court stand before the judge, and he basically said, because I was able to graduate and I was working, and my probation that I completed, I finished it early because I did everything that I was supposed to do. Never failed a drug test or anything like that. And so he clearly saw that I'm not the typical criminal. But regardless of that, on my record, it says felony. And that's something that's definitely a mistake, but it's nothing that I shy away from. I'm open and honest about it. It's been all over Facebook. It's been a huge deal in Memphis. Maybe not a huge deal. Definitely got past it, but I think that was definitely a challenging time. So,
right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what I know of you, I don't really. Somebody mentioned Koai. I don't think felony.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt.
But when you, just to go back a little bit in terms of like, when you say you got a hold of some counterfeit money, like, do you think back to the time, or do you know, like, were you going through something personally that made you do it, or was it just really, truly a bad decision?
Oh, it was I wasn't going through anything.
Okay.
I think I knew that I was involved in some stuff that was illegal.
Okay.
And I knew it, and I did it. I didn't think, just very immature, like, oh, I'm never going to get caught. I'm rolling. And it wasn't just me. It was other people, but I was involved. You know what I'm saying? So, just being involved with it, I felt like this isn't something that I'm shying away from. This isn't something that I feel like is, if you have time to listen to the whole story, I think you get a better picture of who I am and the mistake that I made. It was definitely a mistake in that moment. I wasn't going through anything. It was during the summer, and nobody stays at school during the summer. Everybody goes back home, but I stayed, right? And so I'm bored. And me and my other boys, we all bored. And what happens? I don't mind double workshop.
Right.
And so we start spinning. You know what I mean?
So let's do this.
Yep.
I think we should go. Yeah.
Man,
that makes sense.
We can be fresh. We can go run up to the outlet mall and get all this stuff, and we can look good and all this. And clink, clink.
Right. and they look at this dollar and they say, yeah, bro. No, this is not gonna. So do you think, how did that moment or that mistake define you? Because we talk about second chances a lot. At least quietly we do. You know what I mean? Amongst each other, we talk about second chances or not, and whether we should give people second chances when they make mistakes. And so has that mistake defined who you are today?
Absolutely, it defines me. And it defines me because I made the conscious decision to do what I did, and I'm also making the conscious decision to highlight what I did, because it's a piece of who I am. It's made me who I am. It's because I made that mistake, I realized I'm not invincible. So that immaturity that I had, I quickly got out of. Like, dude, you just went to jail, bro. This is not how your mom raised you. You didn't go to school. You're not this smart. You don't do these things. Like, but yet I'm in jail. Right. And so that was a huge defining moment for me. And I think I came out on the other side like this, and it's because of that situation. And it's also because it's not something that I'm trying to hide. I want people to know. I want people to see. Like, I made a mistake, and people make mistakes every single day. And yet I'm still the principal of a middle school. I'm still the principal of the highest performing middle school in the city of Memphis. And that is a direct reflection of who I am internally. But I made a mistake.
Right. It's authentically who you are. Right. And we were just talking about media and how we're being portrayed and the balance of those things. So that's a balance of who you are. When we talk about social media, you see a lot of perfection. You see the cars, the houses, the jewelry, the clothes, but behind closed doors, those people might be mad or sad or dealing with some depression, or can't really pay, don't know when the next check is coming to pay the bills. And so doing that, I think, is definitely pretty awesome. And everybody needs to find that balance in and of themselves. I'm not saying share your life and experience with the world unless you feel like that's your calling, but find a way to be authentically you in every space, in every room that you walk into. And one of the things that that I read about during the situation is that I read that you had. Is it true that you decided not to expunge your record?
Yes.
And that's all based on.
That's 100% because I'm open and honest. And again, my mission is to prove that there are many, many counterexamples to what you see in the media. Mm-hmm. I'm a living, breathing testament to that. You may see, oh, he drives with this. Oh, he's a principal, so he never. Nah, bro, I got a felony, bro. Like, right. Let's sit down and talk about it. Yeah. Like, I can walk you through step by step how to get out of a situation. Mm-hmm. And I need people to understand, like, I'm not trying to expunge it. I don't need to expunge it because it is who I am. Mm-hmm. And even so, whatever feeling you have about me, give me a minute to talk to you, and I bet you don't have that same feeling anymore.
Okay, so let me, and I don't want to get too off topic, but it's just. It's really good and it's interesting because most people would shy away from it because felony is a pretty dark mark on your record, yes, right? And it makes it really hard and challenging to get to a place to where you can provide, right? Yep. That's the biggest challenge when some of these guys get out of prison or from being locked up. It's like, how do they start? Where do they go? And so for you to make that decision, like, where did you get the faith from to do that? Like, or was it faith? What was it that just said, like, I will get past this. I'm going to wear this coat and I'm going to walk in this room and these people are going to accept me one way or another. And if they don't, I'm cool with that. I'll move on to the next one. Man,
that's a great question, dude. I don't, part of it is faith. Most of it's faith. But then there's also the things that Providence St. Mill has taught me, the things that my mom has taught me, like, you will find a way or you will make one. And like, and because I've always had that in my mind, like, whatever it is I don't want to do in life, I'm going to do it. Whatever my passion is, I'm going to do it. And that's why, when I'm working with my students, like, whatever it is that you like doing, like, let's do it all the way to 100, you know what I'm saying? Because you need to follow your passion. And so me making the conscious decision not to expunge it from my record, I feel like that it provides me an opportunity to connect with people in ways that not many other people are able to do. Not many people walk around with a felony on record, but then also have 2 master's degrees, or walk around and have this quote unquote title for this thing that you do. There aren't many people who can do that. But I just think that it's my faith that has allowed me to continue to just be so bold about it. And, lots of doors have been closed in my face, like very apparently and very like kind of,
to the side,
so maybe that's why I didn't get that opportunity because you saw this thing on, and so, and I think, but at every turn, I know for a fact that, our Lord and Savior has provided an opportunity for me. He's provided a way for me. And in the times where I felt like maybe a door was closed, that's where, the part of the mission statement comes in, find a way or make one.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. It just sticks with you. You know what I mean? And you have to keep pushing forward. So I guess the motivating factor from that is like, just keep moving. Find the thing that you want to do deeply in your heart and the things that really brings you joy in this world. Right. And no matter what, beyond your mistakes, you can still make it happen. It might be a little harder.
Yes, sir.
But that's your race. Right. Right.
Right.
It's the race that you were given, and it is true. It's kind of cliche, but it's true. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Absolutely. If you can get through this storm, the next storm has to be stronger. Yep. To knock you down. They can't. Life can't give you the same storm again. Once you learn how to, all right, this one it's a little rainy. I put my rain boots on. I got my rain. I'm not gonna get wet. I'm good. You're gonna have to bring a tsunami this time, right? And then we can fight about it then, right? But you can't bring that little Penny storm that you brought the first time because I didn't figure out how to.
I got the steps for that. Yeah, that's easy.
Let's move it on. And that's being authentic. That's just who you are. We can't all walk the same walk. And so when talking about that challenge in your life, and you've pretty much kind of moved past that and you're on to bigger and better things. Who or what would you say challenges you the most today and why?
Oh, it's the three girls in my life. It's my wife. It's my two kids. I think they challenge me to be consistent. The stuff that I talk about, they hold me to it. So like, if I'm gonna talk about it, boy, you better be about it. And I'm watching you, Daddy.
Right.
So absolutely, it's those three women right there. They tough, man. Especially a little one.
You don't have to tell me, man. I mean, one woman is tough enough, man. Three?
Yep, three of them.
Man, you probably drink a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Drink a lot of water.
Let me tell you about last night.
Yeah. Drink a lot of water is what I mean. Not that brown stuff. But I imagine, I don't want to assume, but who or what would you say motivates you the most today then, and why?
From a lot of my answers are redundant, man. They keep coming back to my family. I think, my wife and I made the decision to start our lives together, and once we had children, they brought a new set of circumstances and challenges. But I think they motivate me the most because I know what I wanted as a child. I know what I needed as a child, being on the other side of it. I know the mistakes that I made, and I'm very aware of them. And I don't necessarily know how I've arrived at like this very reflective self-actualization, kind of mind frame. But I think that I'm motivated because of the life that I have lived, and knowing that I got really I got three people depending on me to do what I'm supposed to do, what God put me on earth to do. But mainly I got two little girls who they deserve the world. And so what motivates me every single day and get to work at 5:45 in the morning, don't get home till 5:45 in the evening every single day, is because of them. And
so did you always know that you wanted to be a dad?
Oh yeah. Even as a small child. Like, so I at one point, my mom and I were going to counseling, and I remember.
Wait, back up.
Yep.
Wait, say that again.
At one point, my mom and I went to counseling. Yep. I had a rough childhood, man. I had anger built up from not having my father. I did a lot of dumb stuff in school. From the outside, like just standard boy,
right,
adolescent mistakes, pull a girl hair or push somebody over here, a little fight over this side, like little things like that. But what was underneath was my idea of family, my idea of who am I in this world? Because I know I have my mother, but I don't have this reflection that I'm supposed to aspire to.
Right.
To. I didn't have this father in my life at the time, and so I think just realizing like all the mistakes that I made along the way, I wanted to get to a place where like it's not about me anymore. Like once I reflected and I thought about all the mistakes I made, I think I'm in a good place now. So I might have missed your last part of your question. Right.
No. So I probably messed it up by cutting you off by saying what, and I want to be clear that it wasn't that I was saying what in a way like there's something wrong with going to counseling. Mm-hmm. It's just not what you typically hear.
Oh, right.
In our community. So it's more of a like, it's almost like a proud moment because I now where I am today do not look at counseling as a negative thing. Mm-hmm. I look at it as a means for growth. There are points when you need it and points when you don't. And then when you said you and your mom, that means that she had the courage to do that. Because once you go to counseling, she had to open up just as much as you did.
She did.
If she now it's one thing to go and take you and drop you off, right? But it's another thing to go in there and sit in there and talk about your issues. And then when you bring up your issues, then the counselor or therapist has to say, "Well, Mom, how do you feel about that? Mm-hmm. What drove you to do that?" And then now she has to go back, dig into her closet of things, and bring those things back up.
Right.
Which our parents found very good ways of being able to hide those things away and keep moving forward. That's a part of their strength and weakness to some degree.
Yes, sir.
And so that's why I said that. And so the question was, I think you did answer it. I said, did you always know that you wanted to be a father? And you said, through that moment that you knew as a child that you always wanted to have a family environment, that structure. You wanted that, and that was part of why you were quote unquote acting out. Maybe it could have just been tension from being a boy.
You know what I mean? That too. But I think back to one assignment that the counselor gave me specifically, and I had to draw a bit. And the assignment was I had to draw a picture of what I wanted my life to be. Like if I could just magically snap my fingers and it was a way, draw a picture of what that would be. And so I remember drawing a picture of this big. I'm talking about this house was dope,
right?
But I was third grader, so it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But in my mind, it was dope for third.
Right.
So I drew a picture of a house, a dog, my mother, and my father holding my hand. And so family was always there. Even as a really, really small boy, family was, and I don't know why it was,
but it was just there.
It was there. It was there, right? And so out of that assignment, and I think back to that assignment, and like. I just always wanted a family. I always had to have a family, and I'm destined to have one. And then, I was able to get one.
Right. And so it's funny how those things, again, we get back to the imagery and the things that we see even as children, and then we get older, and you look at what's manifested. So in your life, what is manifested? If you think about that picture, right?
Yep.
I've seen pictures of your crib.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
right?
sir. Proud moment, been blessed.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So I'm saying, I've seen pictures of the crib. You're married. You're happily married.
Yes, sir.
And you have 2 daughters. And I imagine that you have become the picture that you drew in third grade. Right. And so that goes to show you how important it is to begin to talk about the things that we want out of life and don't be afraid of them.
Yep.
Whether it means drawing it out, writing it out, talking it out, however it is, and then addressing the things that are in between that might not let us get there either in the time that we should or never. So I think that's pretty dope that you in terms of being able to look back at where you were and look at where you are now. And it's like, you know what? When they say write it down,
man,
it's true. You go back to it and you be like, man, I meant what I said, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look at that. Look at that.
So, I mean, in all of these moments, man, and then you get into the place, you're in a happy place right now. What would you say has been your proudest moment as a father?
Man, a lot of those. If I can boil it all down, I think it's academically. I think my daughters, so they just got their report cards back. So my big girl, she's in second grade. She has all A's and B's. Struggled a little bit in math, but I think I'm proud of the fact that she understands the value of an education. She understands the value of like we're not just sitting around watching TV all day. You can watch TV; it's not a problem with it. We'll monitor it. But I think she understands the value of education. My little girl just has this innate ability to just pick up on stuff. So she's mastered every skill.
She get that from her mama?
No, she get that from pops. I'm not shy about where I've been in my life.
No, I'm messing with you.
However, don't go look at my grades or saying right. I was just above a C.
Right. Just enough to get past junior contract.
You know what I'm saying?
Right? It worked.
But I would say academically. I think their academics is something I really. They're sweet children. They're well-rounded, just caring young ladies. They care about feelings. They're in tune with their feelings. They're okay with being open about their feelings, and that's what I want out of them. Because that's the way their mom is. That's the way their father is too.
Okay, no, that's pretty dope. So being proud of the academics, and that absolutely takes some time to really kind of get deep into, especially with younger kids. Girls, I hear, are different in terms of how they kind of adapt to the academics. It's a little bit easier, maybe. Boys,
a lot more interested in a lot of other stuff. Take a deep breath, man.
I know. All I need is like 3 points. Just give me 2. Everybody say give you 3 steps. Give me 2 steps for just improving on this. But we'll get to that in a minute. But what does fatherhood mean to you?
Nobody's ever asked me that. Wow. What does fatherhood mean to me? You've got to be everything. Fatherhood is like you have to have all the hats, all the different tools, and then you've got to be able to pull out the right tool at the right time. Because if you pull out the wrong tool, and you use it the wrong way, you could severely damage that item. And so fatherhood is a daunting task. It is the most important task at the same time, and it's fun. Like, and it's all of those things to me. So I don't have a magical like one word thing.
No, it's not.
Just trying to encapsulate it all in those couple those phrases.
Yeah. No, I mean, so when you say the hat, like we got to wear all these hats,
All of them.
yeah. How do you really feel about wearing those hats? What I mean is that being a jack of all trades to some degree,
Yes,
not
sir.
saying that that's what it is, but wearing all these things at one point, does it? Do you feel like it adds a level of stress, or you feel like that's just a part of the game, and you have to deal with it and move on?
Yeah, it's you wear all the hats, and it's not necessarily fun all the time, but sometimes it is. Sometimes I don't have to be the disciplinarian. Sometimes I get to be the fun parent.
Well, you got girls.
Yeah.
You got girls.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true. But there's a different level of stress with girls that
I'm sure
I don't
you
know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I don't know you'll get.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with that. I talked to episode 4. I think we talked about girls with Fred Anderson. We were talking. He has a little girl, and we were talking about how he's raising his idea about raising his daughter to one day look for a man to marry and go forth and go on. So thinking about those things and how you want to raise your daughter to be this strong, intelligent.
Yep.
All these wonderful adjectives of things that you want them to be, that we have conversations about outside of, when it's just, whether it's a barbershop or wherever we are, if we're in the backyard and we're talking about some of the things as it relates to women that are just, quote unquote, too strong. And I don't know if that's really a thing, being too strong, but you know how when it comes to relationships, it's like they're overpowering sometimes.
Right.
And it's like there's a balance that you got to strike between that. At least I think. I'm not speaking from a place of
you are 100%.
of experience. I'm just speaking from a place of like just thinking, like, I wonder how.
Right.
Like, how would I deal with that in that moment if it was now? It's over now. No more. Ain't no more airplanes coming down this runway, bro. That's it.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal. It's done. This goose is cooked, Jack.
And
It's too
right.
much.
And I'm right with you.
Yeah, I was gonna get rid of that. I was leading to no boy, huh? You don't want a namesake.
So we talked about this, but I'm not the guy to get a boy. So I'm the guy that gets all girls. So
Well, who you talk to find that out?
no, I just know. I feel like a lot of those life lessons that I went through throughout life, they taught me a lot of different things.
Gotcha.
And so I don't want to run the risk of having to be confronted yet again with
By
some
one
of the
of those
mistakes I
things.
made. Yeah. There you go.
Ooh.
There you go. I tiptoed all the way around that.
Yeah.
I tried to do my best with that one.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I always, when people ask, I just say, if I could go up to the register and say, let me get the little girl,
Right.
and tell them if I can order.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Punch in the order and then pay for it. Then yeah, I can. Let's go.
Exactly.
I can't. There's no ordering in this. Whatever comes down and comes out. That's what God wants you to have.
That's what you want you to
right?
have.
And so
And I don't know.
I know
don't
too
what
many.
it- yeah.
I know a couple people that done tried 5 times, and guess what they got?
Yes, sir.
5 boys or 5 girls. You know what I mean? No, I'll be in a white Bronco driving down
Right.
driving down 290. You try 5 times and I got 5 boys. You catch me. No.
Right.
Take everything. I'm gonna go to work. You can have everything. I'm gonna live in a little hut somewhere, but you can have all my money to take care of them 5 kids.
Yep.
I swear, because I go them 5 boys.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
no, that's absolutely.
So yeah,
that's where I'm with that.
I'm good. The wife and I made a decision. Every now and then we have a quick. You think you want? Nah.
No, I think it's more so with girls than boys. But when we're out, I'll see a little girl and I'm like, she really cute. Like you get the little fuzzy moment. Like, man, I wonder what
Yep.
our daughter would look like.
Yep.
And then I get hit in the back of the head with a shoe
No doubt.
or something.
Football in the eye or something. Yep.
Right. And it's like, wake up, stupid. You know what I'm saying? This is not what's getting ready to happen.
Exactly.
You know, literally getting hit in the back of the head with something to wake you up from that dream that you really don't want no more.
Right.
And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. I want to be able to get up and travel and do some things when these boys get out of my house. I told my wife we gonna get a studio as soon as the youngest is gone. We selling and getting a studio because there ain't gonna be nowhere for him to sleep. You can't come back and
You can't come back here. It's time for you to make your life. I'm trying to come visit you.
Right. You telling a story. Your daughter's gonna be able to come back.
Listen, I'm talking big stuff right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking real big.
Because they can come home. Them boys can't come home. You better find you somewhere to go, boy. You ain't gonna get off my couch.
Right.
But oh, baby, come on back. Come on back. You can stay home till you find a man that's gonna, or he finds you. Not you go find him, but he finds you. Take your time, baby. Go and get you a couple master's degree. Let your son come back and tell you he want to stay and sleep on your couch. Who couch? Who? Not the couch I bought. Well, no, we ain't gonna do that. So I'm gonna just cut it down. I'm gonna make it easy on you. It's gonna be a 1-bedroom. We're gonna eat out every night. Ain't gonna have a kitchen, just a window.
Right.
I'm messing a little bit, man. I'll give them a fresh start to some degree, but they're gonna have to get out though.
Yeah,
for real.
Yep.
I know I don't want to be take up all your time, but I do have you got time for one or two more questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So one of the questions that I always ask everybody, is interesting. I ask, if you had an opportunity to put an image or a phrase in a barbershop, all the barbershops across the country, what would that image be or that phrase say?
What would that image be or what would the phrase say? I would go with maybe it's both. Maybe it's a picture of a black man with a baseball cap, earrings, chain, the quote unquote stereotypical inner city looking black man. And then the exact same man side by side screen with him in a suit. No earrings, clean cut, briefcase situation. And then above it would say, be the counterexample. I think people need to understand that humans are multifaceted people. Like, we like a lot of different things. We look a lot of different ways. I can wear earrings to work. And that doesn't mean that I'm a thug. You know what I mean? I got some brains, right. I might. 2 master's degrees worth of brains, right? Listen, and some student loans to go with it. Well, you know what I mean? But I think the poster that'll be pictured is like the split screen, and then across the top just be the counterexample, or just providing people an opportunity to like look at something and not judge it off of what it looks like, because that's what the brain tells us to do. Like, you make these associations, and then you continue to make these associations until you believe what that association is. Right. So to break that down a little bit, like show them the exact same person doing the exact same thing but in a different garb. And so I think that's enough for people to understand. Like, you can't just look at somebody and say, oh, they're this, or this image on the screen, oh, all black people are this, or all Asians are this, or all this is, you know what I mean? You just can't make these grandiose statements. You have to take every individual person and get to know that person, and not make these huge, broad, strokes. Right.
Yeah, that's definitely that's powerful in our community for sure. In a number of ways, that's powerful for us. If I'm walking in a barbershop and I see that in this be the counter example, it lets me know that there obviously is another way to be who I am. I don't necessarily have to. I don't have to change who I am. I just have to understand that there are people watching, right? And that it can be interpreted differently. So what is the interpretation that I want to present? And then from the outside looking in, somebody looking at the interpretation one way or another, they understand that you can, depending on when you catch me, you might catch me. out at the grocery store in a
Right.
baseball cap, some earrings,
Yep.
a pair of Jordans.
Yep.
My pants won't be sagging.
Nah, mine won't be.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a belt on.
That's the one thing.
I am gonna put a belt on, but you will catch me in moments
Right.
where it's different. We get so tied up in some of the cliches of how you're supposed to be. Sometimes I'll wear Converse to work with blazer. Like, it's just the difference. And then when you kind of get past some of that first perception, you can dig a little bit deeper, and you chances are you're going to learn something.
Right.
And so, that's definitely could be powerful for sure in that manner. So if there was a guy that came to you and said, Koai, I'm thinking about getting married and having kids, what would your advice be? And he's asking you for advice, soliciting you for it, and saying, what should I do before I get married or have kids?
Mm-hmm. I would say to that young man, I'd ask him a couple questions. Number one, who are you and what do you want? So, like, outside of this image that you think you're supposed to have, outside of the life that you think you want to have, like, who are you as a person, and are you living in that? So, like, if I want to be an astronaut, like, are you taking steps to become an astronaut? Are you in that field? Are you doing what it is that makes you happy as a person? Because if you aren't happy as a person, you can't get with somebody else and then magically become happy. You got to know who you are. You got to know what you want out of life. And if you can do that, then I think you're in a better position to have a successful marriage and family.
I'm not gonna add anything to that. Should have came to you before. I'm still trying to figure out who I am.
You got it.
I'm still saying I am Malcolm X. I am Malcolm X. As always, I appreciate you joining us. But if you could do us a favor and share this episode with at least one person that you know will be either encouraged, empowered, or inspired by this episode, we'd be greatly in your debt, at least until the next episode comes out. Oh, and if you have about 60 seconds, stop by the review section of the show on iTunes or Stitcher and drop us a line, because your feedback truly, truly matters, and it helps us improve each and every episode. See you episode 8.